Hello and welcome to this, the Crypto Club and Digital Assets Weekly Catch-Up on Zoom. It is Sunday, the 28th of July, 2024. And as is always the case, we never know quite what we're going to be talking about. Really depends upon who shows up and what topics we decide to discuss. But often we talk about blockchain, crypto, DeFi, NFTs, ICOs, CBDCs, crypto market news, and anything else that's happening in the world that is relevant and interesting to crypto. So with that, let's see who's going to come and join us today. Hey, Christopher, long time no see.
Hey Gary, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How's life?
Yes, it's good. It's been interesting so far. Um, you never know what you get when in the beginning of the year, how things will turn out. And so I've had some challenges, but
Okay,
it's still here.
right. What's keeping you occupied at the moment then?
Um, I've just finished an alternative MBA, online MBA. I just
Hmm.
finished that. Just wanted to find a bit more about business and how that works. And then maybe looking to work with a tech company that's involved in CBDCs.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll know sometime next week whether it's going to go ahead. And working on launching my own tokenized project. So my trips to Saudi haven't been wasted. So I'm
Okay.
just waiting for everything to be approved. But I think we're in the right direction. So
Okay. Well, that's good because you often find with these things that they seem to be going really well and then they suddenly just fizzle out or you don't get funding or whatever. So it's good to hear you're
yeah,
making progress. That's
yeah,
really good. Okay.
yeah. So we're just fleshing out the legals and regulatory licensing. So so that's taken a while.
Okay. Yeah. And the CBDC stuff you're mentioning as well, that's really interesting because there's so many projects going on around the world now that it's definitely getting more and more interesting. I was just looking the other day at I don't know if you actually look at the tracker on CBDCs that shows what's going on around the world.
Oh, okay.
But here you go. There's one I prepared earlier, kind of thing.
CBDC tracker.org.
Yeah. So this actually looks at what's going on in each country, and you can actually see which projects are in pilot, which ones are in live, and that kind of thing. So at the moment, as we can see, Europe's doing various stuff. The UK with their digital pound are still in the research phase. So the Bank of England, I think they're about a year into that initiative. Got at least another year to go yet. But there's all sorts of stuff going on all around the world. South America, okay, so the
Okay.
Ecuador one's killed, but there's one, was it El Salvador, which was particularly active for a while. Yeah, see proof of concept going on in Brazil. Once we've got Argentina, digital peso. So practically every country at the moment is exploring in some way the potential of a CBDC, whether that's a retail one, so for consumers, or a wholesale one for like settlements and inter-country activities. I seem to remember,
Yeah.
funnily enough, you were mentioning Saudi before, that they've got several projects going on, one of which is a wholesale link, which I think extends from the, I've forgotten the name of the project. They were involved in a project a few years ago now, which was about inter-bank, inter-country settlements. ABBA, Project ABBA, if I remember correctly. And now they're doing something on the wholesale side of things. So there's loads of stuff going on. Really
There
interesting to
is.
see.
There is. I see,
Yeah.
in the WhatsApp groups, you hear stuff. Just bear with me 1 second. I've got background noise. 1 second.
Yeah, no worries. And so I guess meanwhile, for anyone who's looking at these things, you can see on cbdctracker.org lots of things going on all over the place. This is a great site to take a look country by country. If I remember correctly, I think you can filter either by country or status and that kind of thing as well. So you look at the latest ones. So Ethiopia, Kyrgyzstan, Qatar, lots of things happening. Sorry, Chris, just while you went away, I thought I'd just share a few more things about the various CBDCs that are going on. Well,
Yeah,
lots of
yeah.
things
I think
happening.
yeah, yeah. I think you know, as these projects progress and start to come to market, we'll see more demand. I mean, interesting the tech stack they're using and what why they chose that tech stack and who they went with and
Yep.
so forth, you know. It's interesting because I just read somewhere the regulator in Switzerland is kind of putting a ban on stable coins or making it very difficult for anyone to be able to issue stable coins.
So I saw something on that, but I wasn't quite sure whether it was that um, it was actually banning them or it was just putting in place some sort of restrictions in some way. Um,
Yeah, you're right. I did read the article and it's kind of like you need a banking license
mhm.
to be able to issue a stable coin and
Which kind of makes sense.
yeah.
You know, if you're considering a stable coin to be, well, actually, it depends what it's stabilized against. If it's
Mm,
stabilized against a national currency, for example, then that means you're almost like making it equivalent to money.
mm,
I guess if you're stabilizing it against, say, gold, then it's a tokenized representation of a digital asset. And so it's not money. So it depends what the stable coin is stabilized against, I suppose. Uh,
mm,
so I don't know what the thing
yeah.
is. I haven't looked at the regulation lately, but I know that somebody was saying someone's going on with that. Likewise, in the Gulf states, I think Dubai possibly may have passed some recent regulation or legislation around stable coins as well.
Yeah.
And again, I think someone interpreted it that they were banning them, whereas actually they weren't. I think they were just putting some controls on them in some place. So we'll see anyway. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah.
What was that?
No, I was going to say just like lots and lots of things happening in this space.
Mm.
It's difficult to kind of keep up, really.
So, I mean, what are you working on? What's your flavor of the month?
So my interest remains around crypto custody.
Mm,
So I have an interest around how do you secure the private keys? How do you uh, create a capability to recover them? And that might be either because you're an organization that is looking at custody services,
mm,
um, and you might want something where you need either a highly secure way of custodying the asset, the crypto, or it might be you want to have like temporary access. So it might be that you provide access for a limited period to a group of people. So say you're going on business somewhere overseas and you just want to make sure that your colleagues can access the crypto in your absence. Or say you die and things like digital asset inheritance planning. So these are all about digital asset custody and whether those digital assets are actually private keys or shards of keys or digital images or other digital assets. You think about how a lot of people now, you've got a will and your will includes like property and money and this kind of thing. Well, the two things that are missing quite often is how do you pass on your crypto assets if you die? And there's more and more interest in that space, and there's a couple of companies involved in that. But the other thing as well is that what happens if you've got like photographs which are digital or a Facebook profile or Instagram set up as something? How do you secure that as a legacy for future generations? How do you pass it on? So you get people at the moment that they die and suddenly the family have lost access to all the photos. In the old days, you just go to the photo albums in the loft or
mm.
something. But how do you actually secure them in a way that they're recoverable? So I'm interested in that whole space of legacy and inheritance, and it's something that it's an interesting space because most people are going to need to have that capability, but don't realize it yet.
Mm.
And it's one of those classic things. It's a bit like insurance. You never think about these things until it's possibly too late. So
Yeah.
I'm interested in some projects around that at the moment.
So are you looking to create a product or a service that people?
Potentially both. So,
Okay.
one of the startups I've an interest in is creating a kind of digital assets as a service platform where they can white label it. So if you're a custodial provider, so you're a bank, you could do a custodial capability for your customers, or if you're a law firm and you want to provide custody capabilities for your clients, then you could do them. So the capability will ultimately be white labelable or self custody or various. Hey, Elena.
Hi, Gary, and hi, Christopher. How are
Hi,
you
Elena.
today?
I'm doing well, thank you. Good to see you.
Well, we're just having a
Good to
general
see you.
catch up at the moment, Elena,
Mm.
because Chris has been quite busy for a while.
I have, yeah, I haven't been on your calls for a few weeks, quite or months actually. And but yeah, I just wanted to jump on here to see what's going on and what people are doing.
hmm.
Um,
It was interesting. We're having a good chat about the intersection of crypto and the metaverse last week, um, which is a really interesting space about where they overlap. And again, it comes back to things like digital asset custody. And we ended up having quite an interesting chat. And Chris, I think you had an interest in some of this with the Saudi type connection about the idea of having like a metaverse um, shopping mall in effect,
mm,
which had services that people could buy. So things like digital custody or marketing services or advertising or social media management, but you'd
mm,
actually buy it, kind of like buying it through Fiverr, but a series of kiosks run by Fiverr providers all on the metaverse
wow.
with like a blockchain backbone to it to allow you to have better interoperability between them. So that was interesting stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I like the idea of legacy preservation. Of all your digital, your footprint is far and wide and deep over the years. So, I was just thinking about it for myself. How do I passwords or my social media profiles for my children to know it's there and um, you know, God forbid, you're not around anymore and there's many connections that won't even know for maybe years or in the future. I think, oh, what happened to that person? Oh, he's no longer with us,
Yep, yep. And
Yeah.
I see that sometimes on social media platforms where there are people who I know have died, but someone has kept their social media platform going. So I'll occasionally get contacted on LinkedIn by someone. It's like, I know the original person has died. So is this someone who's stolen their account or
Mm.
someone who's preserved it for legacy and this kind of thing? You don't always know with these things.
Yeah, it's your brand as well. So your brand, has to be preserved in a way that, like, if you look at to Bob Proctor and some of the people that have gone, but they have a team of people that are still maintaining
Hmm.
his business.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say about banks. You were talking about CBDCs
Yeah.
before. Well, think about that. Say you've got a retail CBDC. Now, in the UK, at the moment, the Bank of England is talking about limiting the use of their digital pound to, I think you can only hold that they're suggesting that it's either 5,000 or £10,000 on account, which for some people is life changing and some people is not. But if you've got £10,000 locked up and then you die, how do you pass that on? Now with a CBDC, it'll be if I remember correctly, the idea is that the wallets will be managed through what are known as the equivalent of PSPs, so payment service providers. So a little bit like how Barclays at the moment provide your banking services, including a banking app. Well, ultimately, it might be that Barclays end up having a CBDC wallet that's managed by them. And the positive thing about that is at least most banks are pretty well configured to be able to deal with inheritance planning and that kind of thing. And they're comfortable with the idea of, getting confirmation that someone's died, checking that you've got power of attorney or you've got the probate and this kind of thing. So banks are actually quite used to this idea that their customers die sometimes, and what do they do with the funds that they have on deposit? Whether the crypto firms are up to that stage yet, I don't think so. So there's an opportunity there, and when you then extend it further into CBDCs, that's where again a CBDC wallet managed by a traditional bank probably would have those kind of capabilities built into it quite easily. So that could be quite good.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Gary, I think it's a good opportunity for people to fill that void and to provide a service or product that some institutions and individuals can embed into their estate.
Yep. And that's why you're seeing things like My Legacy, I think it's called at the moment, or Crypto Legacy, and a couple of others are setting up in this space at the moment. So the startup that I have an interest in is effectively providing the technology that sits behind that to secure the digital assets. So think of it again, as we were saying before, about like you could offer a service as like a white label product. It's the actual the really clever stuff, the algorithms, the cryptography of securing these things, which I find fascinating. So
yeah, it's really good. I think it's going to be really popular in the coming years. I think so.
Yeah, and it's interesting as well that I think, was it yesterday or the day before, US presidential candidate Donald Trump appeared at the annual Bitcoin conference. So the very fact that you've got a presidential candidate making an appearance at a crypto event is news. The very fact that it actually made it into the news, particularly with it being Trump, where it tends to be anything he says and does tends to get suppressed by a lot of the media, but a lot of them did mention it, I believe. So again, it's getting widespread mainstream recognition. Whether he's actually for it or against it, it was interesting. I was having a chat just before we came on this with someone on a group who was saying, "Oh, well, you don't think he's really in favour of it, is it?" I said, it doesn't matter. It's simply the fact that he mentioned it and the fact it was appeared on various social media sites that he mentioned Bitcoin is enough, because that just plants that little seed of awareness with a few more people who go, well, if Trump's talking about it, maybe there's something in it, or maybe there isn't. But the important thing is he mentioned it and it got reported. So,
yeah, I mean, to be honest, Trump will go anywhere to get votes. But I think the fact that he made a major U-turn in trashing it 6 years ago, and now he's a crypto king, advocate of it, here or there. I think a lot of it is down to market sentiment, how the market's going to really demand and adapt. I mean, we were talking about adoption now, mass adoption. It hasn't happened yet. It's still on that sort of slow build,
Yep. Yep.
of awareness and adoption. But I think um, policy and regulation is going to play a part in it. But I think just coming out with innovative projects that involves the masses to have access to things that they wouldn't have had access to before. It's going to be really good, really cool for people to start engaging. My project is it's all about giving people access to initiatives that they wouldn't have had before. Can't talk much about it now, but when we do make an official appearance, then I can talk about it with more depth.
Excellent. You can do one of our gone in 3 minutes pictures, which no one seems to have done for a few weeks, but it used to be quite interesting. Where you get 3 minutes to just talk about your project and tell us more about it. That'd be good. When you can do that, brilliant. Love to hear more.
Yeah, I'd love to do it for you, Gary, because I think there needs to be people who not only just learn about this industry, but really actively bring some value. There's a lot of people can do in the learning and development to enable a project or collaboration with existing businesses that can move into the Web3 world that they can actually bring on board.
Are you seeing particular themes in that area? Are you seeing any innovation? Any companies are actually making a difference yet?
I think it depends how they look at it, because tokenization of funds and all that stuff is what people are talking about. But who does that benefit? Who does that impact in a big way? What I would like to see is individuals or entrepreneurs really thinking, okay, how can I bring the world into an initiative that they wouldn't have had access to before, using Web3 technology to enable inclusivity, opportunity. Social inclusion is a very big thing for me, because I feel that many parts of the world are not able to participate in a lot of the financial and revenue streams that they can have access to readily in their country, because of constraints with their country, their currency, and their governments. But just think about it, if somebody's got a mobile phone, download a wallet and buy a particular token on exchange and redeem that for ownership of a real world asset that generates income, where's the barrier of entry?
Yeah. And that, I think, is what's really interesting, but it's something that I'm a little bit cautious about as well, because I've been hearing for a number of years, crypto will enable the unbanked to become banked. And I don't think that's actually a good idea, because most banking systems are debt-based. And I actually think it's healthy if you don't extend out a debt-based economy to people who aren't currently in debt. I think it's one of these things that I think that the ability, exactly as you say, to enable people to have access to be able to buy things, to invest in things, I think that's great. If it's done in that way, as opposed to it being oh great, bank the unbanked and we can give them loans, which then means they're in debt, which then means we've got them. And that's what's bothered me for a number of years. And it's what I liked about crypto initially, because if you think about one of the principles of a basic cryptocurrency with the data of who owns what on a blockchain, is that you can't sell your crypto before you own it. And so it's impossible to sell something that you haven't got.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's not a debt-based system. And I thought that was great. And then you've got companies who've set up where they're now offering loans against crypto. which I've been offered several opportunities over the last 7 or 8 years to be like an advisor or an investor, and I've always refused in these things because I just it's anathema to me to offer loans against crypto um, in the traditional loan sense. There are different ways of doing it, and I was involved in one project that approached it differently, because one of the problems with the loan is that if you default on a loan, you still owe the debt. And it's always bothered me that you get people who borrow money against a crypto asset. They use that as like the collateral, and then the crypto decreases in value, and they still owe the original principal. And you know that they're in debt as a result. There are different ways of doing that. There are ways of lending money against crypto where you're not liable for the principal. And I was involved in one initiative looking at that, trying to come through that. But most of the time, any time I hear about, oh yeah, we'll loan against your crypto, wherever, it's like, no, that's introducing a debt-based economy again. So I'm not.
Well, I
a
mean,
fan of that.
collateral. I mean, it depends, you know. I think how people want to still own, have the asset, but obviously leverage it for some whatever reason. But um, I'm not really into all that. I'm just into a social impact for people to use this technology in a way that benefits the wider audience.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that's why if you look at it, goes back to a century or so ago of the concept of mutualization,
mm,
or cooperatives.
mm,
So in the UK, there's a bank called a cooperative bank, and originally that was a cooperative. So a workers' cooperative, for anyone who doesn't know, is a way where all the workers get together and deposit a small amount of money, and then that money is issued as a loan to one of the members for them to go and like buy, maybe farm machinery or equipment or something that they can then generate revenue against to pay off the loan, so it all gets returned. So the whole idea of like a community-based system like that, which I seem to remember, I think in the UK, the Bank of Dave kind of went down that route in some way. If anyone doesn't know about the Bank of Dave, there's actually a film made about it, which is a really good film, quite enjoyable. And it was this guy up in the north of England who, I think he had it was a van company. So he sold vans or rented vans or something. And some of his customers started having cash flow problems. And because his business was quite cash rich, he started giving them small loans and then bigger loans. And because it was community based, they always paid him back. So the actual risk was really, really low. And it built up his reputation in the community as someone who really cared. Until the banks heard about it and said, hang on, you're issuing loans and you've not got a banking license. To which he said, oh, all right, I'll go and get a banking license then. It's like not realizing that isn't quite as easy as it sounds. And he went against the establishments and everything. But the principle was that ultimately he created a banking service that was for the purpose of and benefit of the community. So it comes back to your points about community-based systems and that kind of thing. So
yeah,
really
absolutely.
interesting stuff. Sorry, I thought you were going to say something else.
No. It's true. I mean, also you look at Revolut and Monzo, Starling, how they got started as a challenger bank. And they obviously didn't have their banking license; they had a different license. But I think with what we can create in the Web3 world is a way to use your assets, your digital assets, and to navigate. Because also, I don't know what the token economy is going to look like, because that's where it's going to go, tokens.
You're right, and Revolut's interesting, funnily enough, because it was only about a week ago, I think it was, that they actually announced that they finally, after 3 years, I think it is, they've now got a UK banking license.
Mm.
So up until now, they've not had one. They've now been successful in their application with the PRA. So they've now got a license granted, which now means they can actually start going off and building the infrastructure that they actually need to support that. But that's taken them 3 years. And what it means is that they'll then be able to build up new products, new services, and everything, which is quite exciting.
Mm.
But a lot of people didn't even realize that Revolut didn't have a UK license and that they were operating with, I'm trying to remember whether it was Estonia or somewhere, which they were using. I think they were using the passporting rights for a while. But now finally they've got it. And you're right, you look at the other challenger banks like Monzo, Starling, all this, who size-wise still haven't got the space that the mainstream banks have got. If you look at how many customers they've got, I was looking at some customer stats the other day, and they are still relatively small.
They are, but I mean, if you look at Revolut, it's more global. When you compare it to against Monzo, Monzo are starting to get into the mortgage market and try and take customers that way from the main banks, as well as there's not often any crypto services that Revolut have a back end crypto wallet capability within the app, but there's nothing stopping creating a fintech that just focuses on some of the functionality that you require that the banks don't offer. A few like that, but I don't know. I mean, I like Wise. Wise is a great app because of the money transfer and how quickly you can deposit transfers. And I think there's a lot of talk around tokenizing that and bringing that into the Web3 world as well.
Okay. But what does that kind of offer? What would you tokenize, do you think?
I think coming from a creative perspective, if I was to try and be disruptive, how can I do something in a simpler and a more impactful way using Web3? I used to go to a lot of events, Gary, and I'll sit there, listen to a lot of these speakers, and everyone has their own opinion. One thing they kept talking about was DePen, and once you have a decentralized physical infrastructure, the business models of old are going to change. So if you're able to distribute and decentralize your infrastructure and create apps on top of that, what opportunities does that bring? What applications, use cases that you can bring? Because is the regulatory climate governments ready for that? Ready for decentralization?
So I guess it depends. This is where I always find the word decentralization interesting, because decentralization in a blockchain context does not necessarily mean what people think it means. So, strictly speaking, decentralized in a blockchain domain it's the governance that is decentralized. Okay. And people sometimes get decentralized and distributed mixed up. Because everyone says, oh, well, if it's on loads of computers, it's all decentralized. It's like, no. If it's on loads of different computers, it's distributed, which is interesting, because if it's distributed, that makes it cyber resistant to hacking and that kind of thing, which is great. But decentralization in the blockchain and crypto world actually means it's the governance that's decentralized. And the reason I'm always at pains to point that out is because there's a number of people I know who've tried to develop decentralized products and have then deployed it on a cloud-based solution. So that they've put it all on AWS or Azure or Google Cloud or whatever. It's like, so you as the organization operate the governance, which means you're not decentralized, you're very highly centralized. And you've put it on a cloud infrastructure with a single vendor. So you've put it all on AWS or Azure or whatever, which means you're not distributed either. And it's like, so where's the actual real benefit? And that's why I find it interesting. I still struggle at times when people say, oh, well, you know, we'll use the benefits of Web3. I'm still not sure at times what those benefits are above and beyond not using a user ID and password to log in. Because to me, when people say, you know, what's the difference between Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, the way I kind of describe it, and I'm happy for you to completely disagree on this, Chris or Elena, because you got different perspectives. The way I think of it is that Web 1 was when we had static websites. They were unchanged. You'd click on a URL, you'd go to that website, and that was it. Web 2 was where you had dynamic websites that were being updated. And in order to access them, you needed to log in using a user ID and a password. Okay, and possibly multi-factor authentication as well. Web 3 is where it's both a dynamic website, but you're also using a wallet to log in. So you're no longer having to do a user ID and a password or multi-factor. You're saying, well, use this token I've got in this wallet, or use this wallet for my security layer. Is that a fair summary of the kind of the differences?
You read so many different examples. Like you got read in Web 1, read write in Web 2, and then read write and old in Web 3. And I think the components on the application level with your wallet, yes, that's a difference. But what I think is the shift is that to have the equitable exchange between the customer user and the actual provider of services, where if we can use token as a way of a mediation of value between rather than using our data for explicit advantage for the company in Web 2, we can have a more customer-centric exchange of value where a user can be more empowered to control their data and to actually earn off their data and off their value that they've garnished. This totally goes against what probably Facebook and Google and all those Amazon, all those companies. They're like, well, hold on, we use your data for our advantage here. Why would we want to share that with you? And I think peer-to-peer exchange of value is what really what the internet's all about. Why do I have to go through an intermediary for everything?
Yep.
Why can't I exchange value with Elena? I don't know where you're based, Elena. I'm in the UK.
Apologies. Yeah. Just a side note, I'm in Ireland.
Ireland, okay, yeah. So we're all in different parts of the world. We're using the internet to communicate through voice and video. But why can't we just say, look, we can exchange value in some sort of way without actually having to go through a website or here's my wallet, here's your wallet. We can do an exchange or just trust. Just trustless situation. It's totally a paradigm shift, and that's where people are having problems with Web3 because it's like, hold on, we've spent the last 20 years with social media, retail, e-commerce, and then now we want to change it to this. you know, and I think it's a big ask for a lot of people to get their heads around. But at the same time, I think we can use familiarity with Web 2, but have all the mechanics of Web 3 underneath without actually um, creating. I think that in my MBA, they were talking about having a psychological hurdle, an extra step for people to take, which makes it harder for people to adopt something because it's too much for them to do, you know. And that's what Web 3 had the issue with. It's too many steps. I mean, if I want to transfer $100,000 in value in crypto to somebody and I put the wrong address, it's gone. It's a big risk, you know. So people don't want to do it. I don't do that. If I lose 100,000, that could be my life savings or a big impact to me. So how do you reconcile that and to make it safer and easy to use? You know,
But
and
that's where I was going to offer a couple of quick thoughts on that, because I think actually it's the banking industry that is helping Web3 more than the Web3 industry is. So you think about exactly as you say, if you make a payment in crypto from your wallet to another wallet and you get the address wrong, single digit error, that's it, it's gone forever. It's almost guaranteed it's irrecoverable. So you don't want to do that. And so this is why at the moment we've got these intermediaries called banks. And banks are licensed and regulated and have physical buildings with staff in them that if it all goes wrong, you can go into the local branch and you can say, please help me. Right. So that's the one really good thing about banking. What are all the banks doing right now? In the UK, they're closing their high street presence. They're getting rid of that physical presence. They're adopting online call centers and chatbots where they're removing the human touch and they're automating it. So the banks are kind of, it's bizarre because they're actually killing off their USP, which is this whole concept that if it all goes wrong, you can go to a local branch and speak to somebody. They're getting rid of that thing. That's a real differentiator. And so I think Web3 is going to become more attractive for two reasons. One is simply because the advantage that traditional banking offers, the traditional banks are getting rid of. So there's no advantage anymore. And then the second thing is that gradually Web3 providers are finally realizing that the biggest way to get people to adopt your technology is to make it easier than what's currently in place. And my argument's always simple with technology. If you want someone to adopt it, get it to do what they want it to do, but even easier than it is to do now, right? Because people are intrinsically lazy. If they can find an easier way of doing stuff, they'll generally do it. And as long as you can make it secure and safe and reliable, they'll do it. And this is where I think a lot of Web3 providers, they've not quite crossed that divide yet. That if they actually come up with a Web3 wallet, which is easier to set up and configure than a bank account, then they'll get adoption. And then the other thing is simply through general adoption, full stop. So this is what I was saying about Trump before mentioning crypto. That the very fact it becomes mainstream means more people will adopt it anyway. So we were mentioning CBDCs earlier on. Once we get to the stage where your traditional bank has an online banking app on their mobile phone, and that online banking app, a bit like how Revolut, you can use any currency, means that you can have a current account, a deposit account, a mortgage account, a CBDC account, a crypto account, all of these things, then that just means you get more and more mainstream adoption. And then people start saying, no, hang on, the idea of crypto is to get rid of the banks. It's like, well, yes, but you have to get people comfortable with it first. And exactly as you said before, Chris, about the psychological piece,
Mm.
that people have got to believe it's more secure, more safe, and easier to use than their current thing. So if all of a sudden, if HSBC had oh yeah, you can use our banking app on your mobile phone for your crypto, then if you're using crypto already, you'd probably use it. Because at the moment, trying to use a crypto wallet and talk into a bank is a complete pain. You get accounts frozen, you get
Yeah.
payments refused, all this kind of thing. If it was suddenly integrated as part of the banking app, then it'd be much easier to use. Then more people would adopt it. Blah 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 blah. So
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I think it brings something to mind in the sense of, in China they have WeChat as a super app,
mhm.
and obviously Elon Musk wants to make X a super app where you know you can do everything on these app.
Yep.
Um, but it's still a centralized entity, because if HSBC says, yeah, if you lose your crypto or you get hacked, we can guarantee that up to a certain amount, isn't it? In case somebody steals money from your bank account. But there's a liability that banks don't want to have that liability.
Mhm.
So the other way is make the app, the wallet decentralized as a DApp, and then you're the custodian. So you can give people the choice whether HSBC will be the custodian or you be the custodian of your crypto. And then from there, it's embedded into people's day-to-day interactions with the banking app, which is a great offering. Um, but imagine having an app that can do cross-border transactions at Wise, that can do banking interaction with the banking app, and also at the same time, you can sign off in your wallet whether social media is able to access your data in a way. So it's kind of like, if we was to track everyone's digital journey as they go through their working week or lives, when it comes to health apps, when it comes down to um, social media apps, when it comes down to the banking app, and it comes down to obviously the crypto dealings, and then you was to create something that's so easy to use and so simple, and that gets rid of any friction, you are to a winner. But obviously that takes a lot of technology
Mhm.
and ability to design something like that. I would love to design and bring something like that to the marketplace. I'll be a very rich man.
Yeah.
you know.
Well, it's interesting that there are some developments in that kind of space.
Oh,
So for those who are using social media apps, you'll probably notice more and more how social media platforms are realizing that one of the problems they have is a reputation around bots and fake accounts.
mm,
So whether it's LinkedIn's, um, they've got a profile validation service now. I think
mm,
it's called something. Twitter or X has got their blue tick. WhatsApp have introduced stuff and various others. You notice at the moment more and more of them are offering a ID verification service that links in with a government approved ID verification service. So in the
mm,
UK, there used to be a service called E-Verify, and E-Verify was a group of providers who did verification of your identity for things like passport applications, driving license, that kind of thing. And I think they've stopped E-Verify now, but they've launched something else. But if you use some of the social media applications, it now offers the ability for you to verify your ID using government issued ID. So it's the whole you can verify your LinkedIn profile by giving them your passport details, which kind of goes in the direction you're talking about, but almost exactly the opposite. What it's doing is it's allowing government ID to verify who you are, but it's still the social media platform that controls your data. What you're talking about, I think, is the ability to verify who you are and control your data, which I think is the real benefit of Web3. Yeah.
It's called decentralized ID. So the issuer will issue your government ID, whether it's your driver license, passport, your medical records, whatever identifies you digitally. And then what happens once it's been issued and it's been validated and verified and validated once, then that can be propagated across all different platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and to enable you to say, well, using maybe zero knowledge proof type technology to say, yes, I'm verified.
Mm-hmm.
I am over 18. I'm a UK resident. I have permission to work and live here. I can rent out a house or room. All these things could be done seamlessly based on that type, because why would you want to upload your passport details to someone and they got all that all that information? I mean, I recently booked a family trip. My wife and my son went to Brazil for 3 weeks. So I booked the flight with the Portuguese airline. I booked the accommodation with Airbnb, and I booked a hotel stay as part of that with bookings.com. In the space of 24 hours of me booking that, someone tried to access my Monzo card in Brazil to take out money from my account.
Okay.
And I don't even know whether it was via TAP, the Portuguese airline on their website, Airbnb or bookings.com, but they sold it on to criminals.
Wow.
So, it didn't go through, but I was thinking, wow, that was quick.
But that's the interesting thing again, isn't it? And I don't want to be necessarily viewed as an advocate of traditional banking services. However, they do have a lot of experience in fraud detection and prevention.
Mm.
And so, to give them credit, I've had it sometimes where my bankers got in touch. And I had a situation a while ago where I had a text message from my bank at 2 o'clock in the morning to say, we're seeing suspicious activity on your account. Please log in and check straight away. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, I thought, that's bound to be a spam attack or whatever.
Yeah.
So I ignored it. And then the next morning when I woke up, I thought, I better just check just in case. But did, as I tell everyone else to do, I didn't click on the link that they provided in the SMS thing. I went to the website that I knew separately, typed that in separately, blah, blah, blah. And sure enough, there was an alert on there to say, please contact us immediately. So then phoned them up and they said, oh yeah, there's a load of payments that went through during the night, which were to buy a load of, I think it was pizzas. And this was the bizarre thing. It wasn't like thousands of pounds or dollars.
Yeah.
It was just a load of fast food deliveries overnight, and for some reason that flagged up. And it's like, and they blocked it and they refunded it, and I was really impressed with the service. That is one of the benefits of having someone providing a banking service. Whereas if someone had figured out a way of getting hold of my crypto keys in some way, where would I go to recover them? I wouldn't. And that's where it's kind of quite interesting that banks do sometimes provide that capability of if you'd have paid for your Airbnb using crypto, well, the good thing about that is that you can make a payment and whoever receives it can't then reuse those credentials. So it is more secure. But it's kind of interesting, isn't it? Because if if you pay for something with a credit card, then you have to give your 16-character account number plus the expiry date plus the CVV, so the 3-digit code.
That's right.
Well, that could get passed on to someone else, and they could reuse it. Whereas if you make a payment with a crypto wallet, then it's the signature that verifies the correct payments and everything like that. You can't then reverse engineer it and reuse it to take some more crypto out.
Yeah.
Which is good. But if they did work out a way of doing it, how would you recover it? And this is where I think banks do have some value of having recovery services and that. So, but it's interesting. The thing I thought you were going to mention, because you mentioned that you went through Airbnb, Bookings.com, the airline, and everything, is how many times you probably had to repeat entering all of your details.
Yeah.
And that's where, again, I think Web3, with the ability for your wallet to have your personal identity details, and exactly as you say, when you go into a bar, they don't need to know your date of birth. What they need to know is that you're old enough to drink alcohol.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that might vary from country to country. And this is where zero knowledge proofs, as you mentioned, could be great on that. I don't need to prove who I am or how old I am. I just need to prove that I'm a valid person and I'm allowed to make this transaction.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where, again, Web3 could come into its own. So interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Now, if we can just come up with a product and service to support that.
I think people are looking into it. There's different technologies on decentralized IDs and how that's going to be propagated. Hedera, different blockchains and initiatives. But I think, what's the legals around that? I don't know.
Yeah. The other thing as well, whenever I start hearing about identity, I run away. Because identity is invariably far harder than anyone ever thinks it's going to be.
Yeah.
And I know any number of companies who've got involved in the digital identity space. It's a pain. It really is. If only because people typically may have only one identity, but multiple personas and multiple roles. Mm-hmm. So it's a bit like, what you put on your Facebook account is not necessarily the same as what you'd put on a LinkedIn profile, and so on and so forth, and that kind of thing. And so people tend to operate with different personas depending upon what platform they're using. And you don't necessarily want people to have the relatively easy ability to link all those together, which is kind of interesting. That from a user point of view, you want to be able to log in with the same credentials for everything. But that's a security risk. And from a cyber perspective, having the ability to be able to link together your multiple social media platform profiles and your crypto wallets. And I think it was Elena mentioned a long time ago now, a really interesting thing about NFTs, where people were using NFTs, the avatars, on their social media profiles, which means you've now instantly linked somebody's digital identity with their social media profile. And so to me, that's a cyber risk, because you've made it very easy to link all that together. And if you manage to hack into their NFT, you can then hack into their social media accounts. So interesting stuff.
Anyway,
folks, we're at the end of our time. We've run out. The hour has flown by. Elena, sorry, you were more of
no, that's all right. I was just enjoying listening.
Last week, Chris, it was Elena and I chatting about the metaverse, and we explored some interesting things. So hopefully this week, for those who are watching this afterwards, will find some of that interesting as well. But thanks both of you for joining. As always, some interesting conversations there. We'll see where the market goes in the future. Have a great day, folks.
You too. Okay, thank you.
Bye for now.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.